I want to bring in our White House correspondent, Monica Alba, who is listening along there with me. Monica, I want to pick up on the issue of the Insurrection Act, because this is something that the president has floated any number of different times. As you have been talking to your sources there in the White House, what are you hearing about whether he would actually do that, what it would take for him to do that? What does he think the benefits of that would be as this, situation continues to percolate for days now?
You're right, Laura, that this is something that the president has thought about invoking since his first term. Remember back in 2020, after we saw the widespread protests after the killing of George Floyd, that was something that the president mused about, saying that that was a potential option that he could execute if he wanted to, and ultimately deciding not to. And then similarly, a couple of months ago, again, we've heard these discussions repeatedly from the president saying that he believes that that is a tool that he has in his toolkit at his disposal, but stopping short of actually invoking it. Now, the press secretary was just asked right now, basically, what would the tipping point be for the president this time around with the situation in Minneapolis? Is there something specific that would have him invoke the Insurrection Act? And she said that that's frankly just a question that the president himself can answer, but that it is something that he has been considering, but that also has been used very sparingly in the past, clearly citing previous presidents in American history, she said. But she also did want to point to what the president wrote on social media when he made this threat, or when he said he was considering invoking the Insurrection Act. And she says that this is meant to really be a message to elected officials there in the Twin Cities and in the state of Minnesota, where she is arguing that those officials, in the view of the president, are encouraging violence against federal law enforcement, and that is their issue. And so essentially, the White House is saying that they would like that to stop happening. For their part, Democrats in the state, from the governor to the mayor, have really asked the administration to really tamp down the rhetoric. And also they have asked for them to leave their cities, to leave the state. And essentially, in the words of Governor Walz, he has wanted them to, quote, end this occupation. So you have this war of words that's going back and forth, Laura, as they do continue to consider this, again, with the president saying he could invoke that, but there's no clear indication today that he's about to.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app, or watch live on our YouTube channel.